Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Jim Grisanzio from Oracle, and we're back today to continue our series of conversations on the Hackmakers World Innovation Day Hackathon, which took place in April. And today the conversation is going to be focusing on mentorship and the importance of having mentors at your hackathon. This is a very, very important part of actually running hackathons because you have a lot of new people involved and you have to bring them along on processes and new tools and platforms and things. So I've got three mentors who actually participated in the previous event in April, and I've got Amanda, Tamara, and Alistair. Welcome everybody to the program.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Jim. Morning.
Hey.
It's really great to meet you guys for the first time, even though digitally. Hopefully someday we can meet at a hack somewhere physically. Be kind of cool. So to start this off, let's just go around the room, actually more so, for my benefit, so I can learn who you are and what you do. Amanda, what about you?
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me today. So I'm a health professional. I have spent the last 5 years working in one of the largest health services in Queensland, rolling out their innovation program.
Queensland. Okay, so Australia.
Yeah, Australia. Sorry, yeah, Queensland, Australia.
Cool. Tamara, what about you?
Hi, I'm also located in Brisbane, Queensland. And I have a mixed background around IT, law, mediation, and I do research around ethics and machine learning in healthcare.
Excellent. And Alistair.
Hey, everyone. I'm joining you from Johannesburg, South Africa. My specialization is innovation and entrepreneurship. I spent the last 20 years designing and implementing systems around the world.
Excellent. Well, I'm really excited. I got three new friends at three places two places I've never been. So I look forward to meeting you someday there. So let's talk about mentorship here. What is a mentor? Maybe Amanda, we'll start with you. When you go to a hackathon, what's the role of a mentor?
Well, I guess for me, a role of the mentor is to, especially in a hackathon, is to rapidly work out the team, who they are and what they need to progress them through that defined period of time. So for me, a skills of a mentor is really about listening and understanding what they're going through and what they need to do to progress that. And also having a really good network to lean on is one of those key things, I think.
Interesting. Is this something that you've done before, or is this your first time?
So I've done mentorships in the mentoring and innovation space before. It's the first time I have done a hackathon, I think, as a mentor. I've done subject matter expert stuff before around hackathons. I quite like it. It's fun. It's intense. But it's also it's a very quick reward for what it is.
Interesting. So Tamara, you were laughing there. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I totally relate to that. I found it very important to listen to the idea so that you are able to ask good questions. Sometimes the teams are very young, or it's the first hackathon and they don't know what to ask. So it's a mentor's part to come up with good questions to bring them forward and make them think. And I found it's also very important to be familiar with the resources that are shared, in particular with this hackathon. There were so many resources and so much information shared across all of the channels. So it was easy for the teams to lose track of that and they didn't know where to find things. So just have some kind of roadmap in your head that you can share with the teams and give them a direction about where to go.
Interesting. Do you have a sense of how many mentors were actually at this whole event? Because it was 72 hours, right? So that's fairly intensive amount of time. So it's a very short amount of time. So I would imagine it would be a very intensive experience. Any sense of how many mentors were involved?
I have no idea.
No? Okay.
I think there were 200.
Oh,
Yeah.
200. Wow.
A few.
So 200. So that's an enormous number of people. But I mean, there were certainly lots of participants, so it was obviously chopped up into different teams and things. So Alistair, what was your experience?
It was a great experience. That when I go into hackathons like this, there's two things on my mind: make decisions fast, and show teams what not to do. It's one of I've been through quite a few hackathons around the world. Most of the time, the teams can lose their direction after the first 24 hours. and they need to be super clear about what you're not going to do this weekend compared to like what are the 5 things you think you can do. Is part 1, and part 2 is continuity after a hackathon. I'm very clear when I go in. It's not about just winning the competition and getting a few $1,000s. Very often you leave a hackathon and you might have a business that you can build. And the business, there's a team that I'm working with now that are very interested in carrying on, which is probably one of the most valuable things compared to just that 52 hours or 72 hours that you're going to spend. People get the opportunity to build a business together, and they might do this in their spare time. They might spend a lot of time around that. One
of the things that I hope to do here is to have some conversations with some of the winners to get a real sense of the projects they actually built. But since you were involved in actually working with people directly on projects, give me a sense of some of the projects in general that people were working on. Maybe Alistair, what were specifically what were you there for? What types of projects or tools or platforms were you guys doing?
So we used, I spent a lot of time with one team in particular that I chose. It was around Silvertech, which is giving people over the age of 60 access to remote work. It's like a gig economy worldwide. Cool. I thought that was super cool because it is a business from the heart. It was a real kind of thing that you can put out in the market. It's new. The technologies that we used were specifically around Oracle. It was Apex and then cloud, and then we used some machine learning on top of that for brain profiling. I liked the idea that it was different and complex at the same time. And we were on an Oracle call. We had a lot of quick, good support from Oracle, which was super useful. I've worked with mega vendors around the world for many, many years. And within 20, 30 minutes of putting a call out, we got an answer. There were 3 people that jumped on. We went, we built, we broke a few things, which is part of the fun. Getting things wrong shows you what you mustn't do in the future, which I love.
I guess for me, so there was a couple of projects, a couple of groups that stood out, but for me, there was one that really jumped out at me. I sort of, as soon as I heard that what they were trying to do, I jumped on them, not in a virtual setting, because they were actually developing a solution that was looking at a problem that I'd been investigating late last year prior to COVID. So I could really see it was around using volunteer networks or volunteers to support community. So late last year, I'd worked on a similar challenge for our health service, and the solution that they designed, which was using Apex and Oracle databases as well, will be perfect for us to actually support that. So I was super excited for that. So yeah, that was great, especially as a non-tech person. Working in this space was quite a valuable experience because you could actually provide. So I didn't have to provide the tech because I could actually call out to the network and they actually could provide a solution that would have been so hard for me to actually develop on my own. So I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. The tools are becoming so sophisticated now. So the amount of technology that some people need is much less in terms of technical knowledge, because the tools, a lot of this has been abstracted into the tool itself. So essentially it leads to more people can be developers now.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm ready to be a developer yet. I'll just stay as a health professional and support like the community design and development part of it. Right. Leave it to the developers.
And Tamara, what about you? What did you were there specifically? What some of the projects or some of the topics that you were working on?
I was something like in between. I'm not that like deep tech mentor. I was more mentoring around like team communication intern, like organization and how they structure their project, and giving feedback on their presentation later so that they can highlight the impact that they want to make. One project that I found very interesting was because the team was very young. It was most of them. It was their first hackathon. So they were very excited about the whole experience and very enthusiastic to get started, and had a lot of ideas at the beginning, and then settled for an idea about how to support people after catastrophes, like nature catastrophes, like to give them some kind of actions to stay mentally healthy and positive. And they started that idea from scratch. So they didn't develop like a high technically found solution at the end. But they went through the process of idea generation and what they are capable to do and what not, and how to experience a hackathon and how you go through those 72 hours.
Yeah.
So.
It's interesting. One of the things I hear coming through that all of you are talking about is when you look at the whole purpose of the hackathon was to build things, more or less to help people, education, health, and these kinds of things, because it's not like the world has no problems right now, right? Talk a little bit about what the enthusiasm or how the participants came to this for this purpose. I want to build something to solve world hunger, healthcare, these kinds of things. There are real people in need, and this is non-trivial. It's like the large, chunks of the world. And there's, a few thousand people that came together to, build some technical solutions, not because it's just, cool to hack on technology, but to build something for somebody, right? Mm. So what was that like? Were there lots of conversations around that? What did people say about that? Because there's a real purpose, behind it.
Number one word, purpose.
Yeah.
Every single business that I've built has something called a massive transformative purpose. Yeah. If you start with this, you just bring in the software, the resources, the emotion, the passion, there's massive fire around that thing. You just pick one thing that you want to solve, and if you pick the right problem, then you can pull in the technology to solve that, and the business resources. It happens every single time, and you can look for it. When you've done this 20, 30, 40 times, I spent all of my time looking at a team, and all you need to do is ignite that purpose. It's like starting a fire. They will not sleep. It's not about the hackathon. They will carry on for months, and that's exactly what's happening now. When you speak to Oracle and phone them up and say, we want to bring dignity and purpose to people that are over 60 years old, and we want to connect them on a two-sided digital marketplace using Oracle Apex. 30 seconds, job done, bang. Wow. Everyone's working and you work like mad. So purpose is super, super important in business.
I totally agree with that, like 100%. Like it's finding the why and anchoring around that, and then actually being able to, so the groups that some of the groups I worked with, they were actually experiencing problems that they could see, and obviously there was a kernel of idea they were ruminating around, and then they would come together to solve that problem for their community. So, which is really, it's such a valuable thing to have.
Yeah, I've been to many hackathons, and one of the things that I always notice is that, once you sort of explain, what the whole, what the whole event is about and the purpose and stuff, once it starts, people start showing up early, they stay late, and they start to communicate with each other outside as well. And they develop all these new relationships. Like I think, Alistair, you mentioned earlier about, it's not just a hackathon. You can start a business afterwards, right? I find this over and over and over again with every single event I've ever been involved with. So Tamara, has that been your experience as well in terms of the participant enthusiasm?
Yeah, totally. It's also, purpose, intention, the intentions that they go into it, like to really use technology to make something better as it already is. And the topics that the hackathon had, like healthcare and economy and education, that are all topics that everyone can relate to. So it was very, very tangible for everyone. And they were highly emotionally involved. So they had a lot to talk about. And they were also reading, do more readings and do more research around the topic. So that was so good to see.
Interesting. So one of the things we've talked about here a little bit is the benefit of the participants, getting involved. But what about you? I mean, you were mentors. So what's the benefit that you get out of these things? Maybe Amanda, you're laughing there, so
I
you're smiling.
I think it's always a bit of a selfish thing for me. It's like I think I get so much more out of it than the participants sometimes. Like it's such a big give back. Like the innovation and entrepreneur ecosystem locally and internationally has always been super supportive of me, and the people I work with have around that space has always been super supportive. So when I saw the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals hackathon pop up, I was like, well, I need to actually be giving back and doing that. And with that, the byproduct is I met heaps of cool people who I can totally relate to and who understand exactly what I'm talking about. I guess you find your tribe almost, to put it that way. And the other thing also is, I guess, as a health professional who works in a healthcare setting, I actually could work with people to design solutions quickly that would solve community health issues or challenges, and that would flow on to the health services that we work with. So it's super. I really enjoy it.
Watching people grow is one of the most amazing things that I love. Like the speed at which people can understand and change in just a few hours or days is one of the most rewarding things in the world. Wow. It's beautiful. This is not about technology or just business. That's number one. Number two is that I grow when I watch other people learn, because they teach me things. And I go there with a sponge mind. It's not just because we've built a whole bunch of businesses before. I'm a servant leader steward, and we just put a few guardrails and what you don't need to do and watch out for, like product market fit, customer, blah, blah, blah. And it's like watering flowers. And when they bloom, this is super rewarding. When those people start blooming, then you grow and learn, and you start moving faster and faster in business as well. So this is, for me, mega exciting stuff. When other people grow, you grow. And when they learn this and you drop that shield and you become transparent, then you can build businesses at mega high speed.
Yeah, that transparency actually is another issue that's related to these sorts of events, because people get very genuine very, very quickly because they're in this learning mode. It's also a big part of the open source community, which is also a big part of hackathons. A lot of the software that you were using is open source software for this reason, right? Easily to share it and to share the the code. So Tamara, what about you? It seems like everyone has a benefit here for for getting involved.
Yeah, I feel, because I was like a team mentor, like closer to the team, I learned from both sides, like from the more experienced mentors. I think Alistair and me, we crossed paths in one of the projects, and I learned from Alistair so much too on how you mentored the team, but also from the other side, from the teams themselves. And when it's just the way they're asking questions and how they communicate with each other, and I really enjoy seeing people, how they connect with each other and how they, they're all jumping into the hackathon. They don't know each other. They are from 5 or more different time zones. And the way how they just organize it in those 3 days and developing something. And like Alistair said, they are growing very quickly. And it's just not limited to those 72 hours. They can use what they learned and the discussions they had forward. And all the discussions we now see happening on LinkedIn and other social media channels, it's something that's not limited to one weekend.
Interesting. So what about your companies? I mean, so I've been involved in hackathons. I get something out of it at a personal level. All 3 of you have described, the participants, they're getting things out of it at a personal level. But corporations are contributing here as well, in the sense of like Oracle. Oracle sends, X number of people, engineers and, facilitators and things like that. Other companies were participating as well. What's the business value in this, basically? And why should a company do this? Because we're all employees of companies, right? So why do they do it? Alistair, I think you're going to jump in here.
It depends on what kind of business you are. If you're a large corporate, I think it's a very good source of innovation, because what I've learned is the immune system kicks in and people will have an innovation hub or an experiment or whatever, and they'll spend some dollars and things like this. Going into a hackathon is like one of the fastest fastest ways to innovate at the edge of your business, not the core. So that's if you're a large corporate. I'm not an employee of other people. I build businesses from scratch and we accelerate them. I have something called EXO Ventures. If I go into a hackathon, you can scan the horizon and you can look at like 30 or 40 business opportunities and spot 3. Pull them out and incubate those things at mega high speed.
Wow.
So it depends on the kind of business that you are. If you are building businesses from scratch, you can make yourself attractive to mega vendors such as Oracle and say, we will put you into the cloud and we'll operate across 4 or 5 countries, which is a nice symbiotic relationship to say, are you interested in this, Mr. or Mrs. mega vendor? Because we think we can spot 3 out of 40 businesses that are worth going for it. Let's go. 12, 16 weeks, bang, put it out there. And those are the 2 big topics that are on my mind is like mega corporates. It's a source of super high speed innovation. If you're building businesses from scratch that are ventures and you want to work with a software vendor, it's also a good home to find that.
Interesting. I should also mention universities as well. It's not only companies, because universities are getting involved as well. So maybe Amanda, what do you think?
So I'd have to agree with Alistair. So I think for like the health services particularly, it's about, looking at just identifying challenges that the problems they're trying to solve, and then looking at the solutions that come up and actually working around and designing things that we might not have the capability to do. And then possibly, from that, checking out how we can actually integrate that into our service post hackathon. If it's ready, then possibly piling it as a partner or something like that. So, I can't really comment on what the private sector might think.
Interesting. Tamara, any thoughts on that in terms of organizations, the benefit to the larger organization getting involved?
I have more likes to the student perspective on that. I see it as also as a nice, great platform and opportunity to connect with students, with younger peoples, or like people who are early in their career, regarding the ideas that they have. And from a student perspective, it's good to show yourself what you can do, what you're able to do, that you're creative, that you are thinking out of, say, university box, and make good connections perhaps for the future career.
Yeah, that's actually interesting you say that, because I used to work at Sun Microsystems, and I did a lot of community development work at universities for this project called Open Solaris that I used to work on. And these are people that are 30 years younger than me. I mean, they're children compared to me. And I was always so amazed by not only their enthusiasm, but these are smart kids, right? They're in, CS degrees, and how quick their minds work and how innovative they were and how easily they formed communities. This is what really, community development, humans form communities quite naturally. It's just, how we are as humans. But working with the universities was always very interesting, with the speed at which they could, gather and come up with solutions, or at least try something, right? So very interesting you bring the university experience into that. So, all right. Well, I think this has been really informative, very helpful to me, and really helped the series of conversations. I'm doing a series of interviews here, so hopefully to get 4 or 5 or 6 of these, and I'll make them into podcasts as well. So Amanda, Tamara, and Alistair, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. And good luck in the next hackathon. I assume there's many more in your future, considering what you've said today. And we will all talk to you physically sometime soon.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us. Bye.